You are listening to stories at Chubby Orange Audio. Wish you an enjoyable listening experience. I inherited Grandfather Henry's ghost money shop. Uncle Richard's entire family came over making a fuss, saying that daughters have no right to inherit. I smiled coldly. Uncle Richard's family is about to face a great disaster. How can they still have the mind to fight with me over this shop? Later, Cousin Trevor had a car accident, Cousin Lisa went missing, and Uncle Richard cried and begged me to save their family. But I couldn't do anything about it either, because only people who are about to die can see this shop. I've been orphaned since I was young, and Grandfather Henry raised me to adulthood. After he passed away, all the money was left to Uncle Richard and Uncle David. Only this ghost money shop was reserved for me. I placed Grandfather's photo next to my parents' photos and lit 3 incense sticks as usual. But as soon as the incense was inserted into the burner, it went out. "Grandfather, customers are coming," I muttered as I relit the incense. Just as I turned around, Uncle Richard and his entire family were already standing right at the shop entrance. Uncle Richard and his wife stood hesitantly at the door, looking flustered. Cousin Lisa was wearing a brand new designer bag, her eyes showing some fear, standing hidden behind them. Cousin Trevor was bolder, walking around the shop, observing everywhere. "We've been looking for you for a whole month. Pretty good at hiding, aren't you?" Trevor laughed coldly, his eyes seemingly appraising the value of the entire shop. "Grandfather loved you the most, yet when dividing the inheritance he didn't leave you anything. Turns out he secretly gave you such a large store." As he spoke, he stepped toward a paper girl figure and reached out to grab her leg. Bamboo strips inside cracked out, making him jump back in shock. "What the hell is this?" Startled and angry, he yanked hard, completely breaking the paper girl's leg. I quickly stopped him. "Trevor, these are all paper goods, they break easily." He didn't care at all, tossed the leg aside, then leaned back in a chair, sitting carelessly. Seeing this, Uncle Richard also sat down. He said, "This shop was left to you by Grandfather, why didn't you tell us earlier?" Although Uncle Richard didn't treat me well, he was still an elder, so I politely replied, "Grandfather handed this shop to me before he died, it's not counted as inherited property." Hearing this, Aunt Margaret frowned with displeasure. She waved her hand in front of her nose, as if smelling something unpleasant. "Vivian, you're 18 now, you should understand things better. According to law, when Grandfather died, his children are the rightful heirs. Moreover, in reason and emotion, this shop should be taken over by Trevor, not left to a girl like you." I bent down to pick up the paper girl's leg, carefully stuffing the bamboo strips back in. "Uncle Richard, all the money Grandfather left has already gone to you and Uncle David. Only this shop was reserved for me. This is already fair enough." Aunt Margaret was hit right in her dark heart by my words, quickly glancing at Uncle Richard for signals. Uncle Richard coughed lightly, trying to hide his awkwardness. "You're still young, it would be better for us uncles to manage this shop." Lisa frowned, her tone certain. "This shop is right in the commercial district. Why open such an unlucky ghost money store? It would be best to change it into a fashion boutique. I just quit my job at a clothing shop, I have experience in sales and ready suppliers. I'll share the profits with you later." I glanced at Lisa. She was Uncle Richard's beloved daughter. She'd loved dressing up since childhood but only liked looking pretty, never willing to work hard. She'd already changed jobs at over a dozen companies. Seems like this time she wants to be her own boss. "Lisa, that bag of yours is quite expensive, isn't it? How many bags like that could the money Grandfather left buy?" Lisa pouted. "The money Grandfather left is mine to spend however I want. Besides, we're discussing opening a store here." I looked straight at Uncle Richard, my voice firm. "Uncle, everything Grandfather needed to give you, he already gave. You cannot take this shop, and moreover, this shop can only sell ghost money, it cannot do other business." Trevor became furious and shouted, "Do you know how much a store in the city center is worth? It's worth more than all the money Grandfather left us. Don't talk about what should or shouldn't be taken. Grandfather bought this shop without any of us knowing. Who can guarantee he didn't use our family's money to buy it? This matter isn't clear at all." I didn't want to argue uselessly with them anymore. "Uncle Richard, although they say heavenly secrets cannot be revealed, for the sake of family affection, I still want to tell you. Your family is about to face a great disaster. Don't waste time fighting with me over this shop. Even if I gave it to your family, you wouldn't have lives left to use it." Uncle Richard, who had been pretending to be righteous, suddenly jumped up from his chair. What are you saying? Aunt Margaret also stopped maintaining her gentle appearance. Your grandfather just passed away, yet you're cursing us. You truly have no family affection left. I opened a drawer, took out a pair of golden scissors, the sharp blades glinting with cold light. Even bold Trevor unconsciously stepped back. What are you planning to do? In broad daylight, you want to get physical with us. The person I despise most is exactly his type. All talk but when the other party shows toughness, immediately shrinks like a sick chicken. I pulled out a yellowed paper sheet, quickly cut it into a shirt, and held it up to Trevor's chest to measure perfect fit. Under their astonished gazes, I took out a basin from under the table, lit the paper shirt on fire and threw it in the basin. The flames roared up fiercely, sparks flying everywhere as if someone had just sprinkled gunpowder. Lisa and Aunt Margaret screamed and ran outside. Trevor watched me cut the paper shirt, hold it up to him, then burn it. His face was full of horror and disbelief. Vivian, what do you mean by this? Don't try to scare me with ghost tricks. I'm not afraid. Truly, the ignorant know no fear. Trevor, this outfit is my free gift to you. If you're not used to it, remember to come back and buy a new one from me. He angrily clenched his fists, rushing forward to hit me. I stood still, holding the scissors, not dodging at all, just smiling at him. He hesitated for a moment, then in the next instant, Uncle Richard had already grabbed his arm and pulled him back. Aunt Margaret stood at the door, glaring at me. Why are you still talking nicely with it? It just cursed our whole family and burned paper clothes for Trevor. It's so unlucky. Sue it for illegally occupying property. Not only must it return the house, but it should go to prison too. Uncle Richard hesitated for a few seconds, as if waiting for my reaction. Seeing I said nothing, he snorted coldly and walked away with a wave of his hand. Trevor didn't dare touch me, but he kicked over the remaining basin. The still, burning embers flew onto a paper horse at the entrance, setting it ablaze. I looked at the burning paper horse and called Trevor back. Trevor, I can't give you this horse for free. You have to pay. The burning wood crackled and echoed like galloping hoofbeats. Trevor spat contemptuously on the ground. Are you crazy? Demanding money from me. You carelessly let it catch fire. What does it have to do with me? After saying this, he suddenly froze. Then, as if realizing something, he burst out laughing. You said I was unlucky. I think you're the unlucky one. This is a commercial street. Do you have fire safety permits? You're endangering public safety. He took out his phone and dialed a number, but kept getting no signal. He had to step outside before he could make the call. The flames on the paper horse had reached its neck, burning fiercely. Trevor wiped his face and looked at me smugly. Hello, someone here is committing arson in broad daylight. Please come immediately. He hung up, crossed his arms, and waited to watch the show. The flames had reached the paper horse's ears. I asked him again, are you really not going to pay? He laughed arrogantly. Just wait to go to prison. Fire truck sirens wailed from afar, gradually approaching. I sat on a chair, focused on repairing the paper doll that Trevor had broken. A fire truck stopped by the roadside. Several firefighters quickly jumped out. Who reported the fire? Trevor immediately ran up, fawning as he said, Comrade. I reported it. This ghost money shop is superstitious, burning fires indoors, creating serious danger for surrounding residents. The firefighters looked in the direction Trevor pointed. Where's the fire? Are you sure you didn't report the wrong location? Trevor stood frozen. Aunt Margaret hurried forward, grabbing a firefighter's arm to lead him into the house. Comrade, this woman just burned paper money. Look, there are still ashes in the basin. The firefighter was pulled into the house by her, and the others followed. Trevor walked right behind them, looking smug at me. The firefighters looked around, then turned back with serious expressions. False fire reporting is illegal. This is clearly an empty house. Where's the ghost money shop you mentioned? There's no sign of any fire either. Trevor's expression immediately changed. He rushed in front of me, pointing and shouting. It was her who was burning? Not only did she burn paper money, she cursed me, saying she burned clothes for me. The flames almost reached the ceiling. This whole house was about to burn down. The firefighters immediately surrounded Trevor. Are you making fun of us? In this house, besides us and your family, who else is there? At this point, not only Trevor was struck dumb, but Uncle Richard and his wife were also stunned. Uncle Richard rushed into the house, staring intently at me, while Lisa was so scared she dropped her purse. I calmly hung up the paper doll I had just finished repairing. Uncle, I already told you. Not everyone can see this shop. Richard's family frantically tried to explain my existence to the fire department, but no one except them could see me. The firefighters showed no mercy, immediately taking Trevor's entire family away for the crime of abusing fire department resources. I was ready to confront them, but their time was running short. Even if they made a fuss, it wouldn't last long. After falling asleep, I suddenly felt a cold current run down my spine, followed by the sensation of my body becoming light, as if being lifted up and carried away. I sighed and muttered, "Lucy is being mischievous again. Where does she want to go play this time?" Of course, no one answered me. Because Lucy was the paper figure whose leg Trevor had broken in the shop that morning. She has a soul but cannot control her body herself. She needs my soul to move around. Lucy can't speak, but I can hear her thoughts. Trevor broke my leg today and didn't even apologize. I'm really angry. Lucy controlled the paper body floating in mid-air. I used my will to make her stop in the middle of the road. "Lucy, are you planning to harm Trevor's family? You must know that it's already very difficult for people like us to accumulate good karma. No matter how much we hate, we cannot harm people. Or we'll only hurt ourselves. If you harm Trevor now, the ghost officers will immediately come to arrest you. That would be too much of a loss." I hadn't finished speaking when suddenly a car's headlight flashed from around the curve ahead. Clearly the driver had also seen us. The driver panicked and slammed the brakes. The screech of tires against the road surface was ear-piercing. Although he managed to brake in time, the car still crashed toward us. Lucy's paper body was immediately crushed, and the car crashed straight into the roadside barrier. "We're in trouble, Lucy. We've caused an accident." Lucy was too scared to make a sound. I focused my mind, planning to recite a mantra to return to my own body. I planned to return immediately and use my real body to take responsibility for this accident. But just then, the car door opened, and a blood-covered person crawled out. That person was actually my cousin Trevor. I hadn't had time to react when I suddenly heard the clip-clop of horse hooves. A magnificent tall horse appeared on the empty road, with glossy black fur and strong muscles. It didn't hesitate, trampling straight on Trevor. Trevor, who had been trying to crawl up, suddenly lay motionless. When the horse was about to trample again, a cold wind blew, and two ghost officers appeared in time, grabbing the horse's reins and preventing the next trampling. Seeing the ghost officers arrive, Lucy immediately shrank back, hiding deep in the shadows, afraid of being discovered. I couldn't escape anywhere, so I bravely greeted them. "Two officers, this was completely unintentional. Please show mercy and let it pass." One ghost officer glanced at me and said slowly, "Even without this incident, he would have crashed into the tree ahead later anyway." I secretly breathed a sigh of relief, but then thought about this horse. The ghost officer patted its back. "This horse is from your shop." I nodded, quickly explaining further. "Although it's merchandise from my shop, it was the person lying on the ground who lit it on fire himself, and moreover, he hasn't paid yet." The ghost officer nodded. "Yes, when you owe debts to the underworld and get collected, that's normal. This was just an unintentional accident, nothing to do with you. You can go now." I bowed gratefully and prepared to return, but the ghost officers didn't capture Trevor's soul, only led the horse away. I asked in confusion, "Officers, this person is already like this, why don't you take his soul?" The two ghost officers knew me well, and I often offered them small gifts like clothes, so they were happy to explain further. While he was alive, he did many bad things and his negative karma isn't fully repaid yet. Although his earthly life is over, he still has to suffer in the human world. When his karma is cleared, then we'll come to take him away. I respectfully saw the ghost officers off, gradually understanding everything in my heart. Not long after, an ambulance came to take Trevor away. As a ghost, I floated along to the hospital and witnessed Uncle Richard and his wife rushing over in panic, late as usual. Trevor was undergoing surgery inside, while his mother sat outside crying. After a while, a doctor came out of the operating room. "Is the family of patient Trevor Stone present? We need to sign some papers." Uncle Richard and his wife hurried over. "Doctor, how is my son?" The doctor handed them a file. "First, the patient has lost too much blood and needs an immediate transfusion. His ribs are crushed from trampling, the bone fragments have caused serious damage to his lungs, and he needs a ventilator." Aunt Margaret immediately collapsed to the floor. "Doctor, my son was in a car accident. Why are there injuries from trampling?" The doctor shook his head, showing he didn't know. "But that's not the most serious problem. More importantly, the patient's leg bones are crushed, and the muscles are trampled beyond recovery. There's no other way. We have to amputate the leg. Amputate the leg. Aunt Margaret let out a terrible scream and fainted. Uncle Richard staggered and nearly fell, but the doctor caught his arm in time. The patient's family must make a decision immediately. This is not the time to faint. Hurry up and sign the surgery consent form. Uncle Richard's trembling hand took the pen and slowly signed his name. The doctor immediately returned to continue the surgery. A nurse quickly put Aunt Margaret on a bed and took her for emergency treatment. Uncle Richard was burning with anxiety but couldn't follow her, only able to sit desperately waiting outside the operating room. Looking at the long tear in his cloudy eyes, I felt extremely satisfied. Uncle, do you feel powerless now? Do you know what suffering is? Heaven is very fair. What you robbed from others, you now have to pay back in full. But stay calm, because the debt your family owes has only just begun. I recited a mantra to return to my own body, no longer concerned with their family. But there are some things that even if I don't want to pay attention to, they still find their way to my door. On the 5th day after Trevor's accident, Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret came to my house. Vivian, come with us to the police station. I sat on the chair, coldly looking at her. Aunt Margaret, why should I go to the police station with you? She slammed several papers on the table. This is the accident investigation report for Trevor. According to the scene investigation and surveillance camera footage, it was this paper figure that startled him into braking suddenly and crashing into the barrier. And this paper figure clearly came from your shop. This is all your conspiracy. Lisa said she wanted to come settle accounts with you. Now she's been missing for 3 days. Is this all you're doing? Her tone was full of arrogance, as if everything was caused by me. I picked up the report and threw it back at her. Aunt Margaret, if this accident is related to me, then the police should be the ones coming to find me, not you. There's not just me doing the paper money business in this whole city. How can you be certain the paper figure at the scene was mine? And can't you read? It clearly states here that Trevor lost control due to drunk driving and had an accident. What does it have to do with me? You should feel lucky it hit a paper figure. If it had been a real person, Trevor would be in prison by now. Aunt Margaret, exposed for lying, no longer maintained her domineering attitude and immediately changed her tone, tears streaming down as she cried. Uncle Richard seemed softer, his tone full of persuasion. Currently, your cousin is still in the hospital. He had his leg amputated, needs artificial breathing, gets blood transfusions daily, and is in the ICU. All our money has been spent on treatment. The doctor says much more money is still needed later. Vivian, please help him once. Sell this shop. Your cousin is waiting for money to save his life. I looked at Uncle Richard coldly and smiled bitterly. When my parents died, the food factory they left was also taken by you all. Over all these years, didn't you use it to buy several houses? Grandfather also left quite a bit of money. Did Lisa spend it all on handbags? Aunt Margaret immediately retorted, those 2 houses. One is for Trevor when he gets married. One is where we live. How can we sell them? I was so angry I jumped up from my chair. You people are really ridiculous. You won't sell your own houses but want to sell mine. So you still haven't given up the idea of taking this house. Uncle, I already told you. This shop cannot be taken over by just anyone. I waved my hand, staring at them, my voice cold. Suddenly my arm was grabbed tightly. A trembling voice rang out. Vivian, no matter what, we are family. Please save Uncle, save Trevor and Lisa. Uncle knows you are capable. Please help our family get through this disaster. Our whole family will be grateful to you for life. I pulled Uncle's hand away, calmly replying, Uncle, I don't know fortune telling or divination. I'm just a paper money seller. I have no special abilities. People's fates are predetermined, I cannot change them. Uncle Richard didn't believe me, still stubbornly clinging to me. Just then, a shadow passed by the window. I was startled and immediately jumped up from my chair. I signaled for Uncle to be quiet, then pointed outside. Lisa is standing outside. Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret looked in the direction I pointed. Lisa was standing outside the door, hovering and searching for something. Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret immediately rushed out toward her. I also stepped outside to observe the scene before me. Aunt Margaret hugged Lisa tightly, crying uncontrollably. Lisa, where have you been these past few days? The whole family was worried sick. Uncle Richard scolded her. Why didn't you call home? Do you know we've been looking everywhere for you? Lisa stood motionless, her face vacant, her eyes soulless as if losing focus. Mom and Dad, let's go home first. I have a way to save brother. Hearing this, Aunt Margaret stopped crying and quickly asked, "What way?" "Let's talk at home." Lisa pulled her parents along, but before leaving, she turned back to look at me. I could clearly feel her eyes searching for me, but she couldn't see me. Why was this happening? Normal people looking at this house would only see an empty room. Only people who are about to die or experiencing bad luck can see this as a paper money shop. A few days ago she had clearly entered here and even saw me. Human fate cannot be changed except when. No longer bothered by Uncle Richard's family, I lived very well. Occasionally having a few business deals was enough to maintain my daily life. After grandfather passed away, I learned to keep my heart calm about everything, like a light life, unencumbered. Uncle Richard's family had their own troubles. Even without my interference, they couldn't live peacefully. When I thought they had been tormented to the point where they no longer had the strength to bother me, everything changed again. Aunt Sarah came to my shop. "Vivian, how are you? After grandfather passed away, no one could find you. Turns out you're here." I was startled and panicked. Aunt Sarah was a gentlewoman. After my parents died, she had wanted to adopt me, but grandfather refused and kept me by his side. Even so, Aunt Sarah often visited grandfather's house to see me, bringing delicious food and pretty things suitable for girls. Besides grandfather, she was the person who treated me best. Later Aunt Sarah had twins, a boy and a girl. The two children exhausted all her energy, and gradually she stopped visiting me. But every New Year she would still visit grandfather and give me lots of lucky money, sometimes even gifts. But why could she now see my shop? "Aunt Sarah, why did you come to this ghost money shop?" My voice carried some worry. She slowly approached, gently touching my face like when I was little. "Vivian, you're not living well, are you? Why do you look so thin?" Speaking of this, her tears fell uncontrollably. "Your Uncle David, he won't make it through." I originally planned to buy some new clothes for him, wanting Uncle David to leave this world properly. Seeing the ghost money shop by the roadside, I thought about preparing something in advance. So when the time comes, she choked up, unable to continue, just holding my hand tightly, crying, "Vivian, come home with me to see Uncle David one last time." A few days ago when he could still talk, he kept mentioning not being able to find you, afraid he wouldn't have the face to meet grandfather down there. I gently took Aunt Sarah's hand, using my spiritual sense to feel her soul. Her spirit was stable, her health was still good, with no signs of impending death. It seems because someone in the house was about to die. She was affected by the negative energy, which is why she could see my shop. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief and helped her sit down. "Aunt Sarah, wait a moment for me to prepare something, then I'll go see Uncle David with you." Aunt Sarah nodded gently, leaning back in the chair to rest. I turned to the altar behind me, lighting 3 incense sticks, offering to the gods above and the ghost officers below. I offer merit, hoping for enlightenment. I inserted the incense into the burner, and the smoke rose not straight up to heaven but sank deep into the earth. I secretly sighed in relief. This time the ghost officers had heard my plea. My merit could be preserved. Whether gods or ghost officers, both can help people open their wisdom. It's just that gods require merit, while ghost officers only need money. I don't have much merit, but I have plenty of gold and silver paper. I pulled out a bronze basin from under the altar, poured a bag of gold paper into it and lit it on fire. Bag after bag, I continued burning. By the 5th bag, a cold wind passed by, and the shadow of a ghost officer appeared before me. I stepped forward to bow. "Lord Ghost Officer, there's truly an urgent matter, please excuse the disturbance." The ghost officer counted the gold paper I had just burned in his bag. He scratched his head, smiling somewhat embarrassedly. "What matter do you have that you're giving me so much this time?" I pursed my lips and sighed softly. "Sir, you are busy, so I won't beat around the bush. My Uncle David is a kind man who treats everyone gently and has never done anything bad. Why is his life ending early? Please explain this for me, Lord Ghost Officer." The ghost officer nodded, taking out the book of life and death from his chest and flipping through it. I know right away. In my heart I already understood, but I still pretended to be shocked. How can this be? Who stole his lifespan? The ghost officer immediately realized he had misspoken, blinking several times and hesitating to continue. You know about this too. I can only look at the book of life and death. I can't edit it. As for who edited it and how they changed it, I don't know much about that." I was somewhat disappointed. The book of life and death is in the hands of ghost officers. As long as there are items for exchange, they can still edit it. People often say that with money you can command even ghosts. This so-called borrowing lifespan is using gold paper or objects to bribe ghost officers to help extend lifespans that have reached their limit. But if everyone extended their lifespans, then the underworld would have no souls at all. So to maintain balance, every time they add lifespan to one person, they must subtract lifespan from someone else. This ghost officer knows the truth, but he cannot reveal it, because if the identity of the fate changer is exposed, some masters might trace the clues and force the ghost officer to change it back to the original. I remained silent, showing a disappointed expression. Perhaps feeling he had taken too much gold paper from me, the ghost officer felt somewhat guilty and lowered his voice. I can't tell you who changed the fate, but I can tell you one thing. Your Uncle David was not willing. He was deceived. After the ghost officer left, I took out a red umbrella and gave it to Aunt Sarah. Aunt Sarah, I'll go with you to see Uncle David now, but I'm somewhat sensitive and can't be exposed to sunlight. Can you help me hold the umbrella? Of course. Aunt Sarah took the umbrella and shielded me. I don't remember how long it's been since I stepped out of the shop. Some stores on the street corner had changed owners. Passers-by hurried along, no one paying attention to me walking under the red umbrella. Uncle David had been brought home. As soon as we entered, my two younger cousins greeted us. Cousin Vivian, it's been so long since you came to our house. Cousin Vivian, Daniel misses you so much. My girl cousin Vanessa hugged my waist. Her once innocent and naive face now bore the pallor of grief because her father was about to pass away. Just like me back then, both parents dead, feeling nothing toward the surrounding world. Back then Aunt Sarah had held me in her arms, gently saying, Vivian, don't be afraid, everything will pass. I will take care of you, protect you. I hugged the little girl, stroking her head to comfort her as Aunt Sarah had once comforted me. Vanessa, everything will pass. I will help you. I took out scissors from my bag and cut 2 small paper figures from yellow paper, giving them to the 2 children. You must keep these papers with you, tuck them in books or put them in your pockets, but don't let them get wet. The 2 children didn't understand but nodded obediently. One tucked it into her school bag, the other put it in his shirt pocket. After arranging things for them, I entered Uncle David's room. His hair had turned completely white. His face was withered, his breathing weak like an oil lamp about to burn out. Aunt Sarah was wiping his face with a warm towel. Vivian has come to visit you. Now you can close your eyes in peace. As she spoke, her tears fell. Suddenly the heart monitor sounded an alarm, his heartbeat slowed, the oscillation becoming smaller and smaller. Aunt Sarah began crying aloud but still remembered to take out a set of clothes from her bag. Vivian, quickly help me change Uncle David's clothes. I heard that you must wear new clothes before dying. Otherwise you'll be naked down there. Uncle David has been strong all his life. I can't let him lose face in the other world. As soon as Aunt Sarah finished speaking, the wave on the heart monitor became a straight line, the shrill alarm like a funeral march for life. The 2 children heard the sound and ran over. I's father, gone. My girl cousin Vanessa was in tears, her careful expression heartbreaking. I stood at the door, stopping them, comforting them. It's just the machine breaking. Let me fix it. You 2 go back to the front room, no matter what you hear, don't come out. Aunt Sarah was immersed in grief, not paying attention to what I said. I quickly cut a small paper figure from paper, bit my fingertip and drew on its back with blood. Then I walked to Uncle David's bedside, bit his fingertip, and drew eyes and nose on the paper figure. Aunt Sarah was horrified by my actions. Vivian, what are you doing? I had no time to explain, only whispering in her ear. I'm deceiving the ghost officers. Aunt Sarah, no matter what you hear, don't speak, just hold Uncle David and cry. Aunt Sarah didn't understand but followed my instructions. As soon as I finished speaking, a cold wind blew through and ghost officers appeared. They reached out to grab the paper figure on Uncle David's body. The paper figure fell to the ground, transforming into Uncle David's appearance, with eyes and nose but no mouth. Of course, I couldn't draw a mouth. If it had a mouth, the paper figure would speak and be exposed. The 2 ghost officers checked the Book of Life and Death, confirmed it was correct, then dragged the paper figure away. I quickly cut another paper figure, bit Aunt Sarah's finger, and dropped blood on it. Aunt Sarah, say you voluntarily donate 1 day of your lifespan to Uncle David. Aunt Sarah had been so frightened by me that she couldn't react, but she still followed my words, repeating the sentence. I placed the paper figure in Uncle David's hand. 3 seconds later, the heart monitor resumed working, the alarm changing to steady beeping. Aunt Sarah couldn't believe her eyes as she stared at the monitoring screen. She reached out again to check Uncle David's breathing. Then she knelt down in front of me. "Vivian, thank you for saving Uncle David." "Thank you." She was about to kowtow to me as she spoke. I quickly stepped forward to help her up. "Aunt Sarah, please don't do that. Uncle David is only temporarily maintaining vital signs, it doesn't mean he's fully recovered." Aunt Sarah regained some composure, wiped her tears, her eyes becoming determined. "Vivian, as long as I can save Uncle David, I'm willing to sacrifice everything. You just told me to voluntarily lend lifespan, I accept. If you need me to repeat it again, I'm willing to give him all my lifespan." "Aunt Sarah, please stay calm." I sighed. This is indeed their family. "Aunt Sarah, do you remember what Uncle Richard said to Uncle David? Borrowing lifespan is not the righteous path, so the person being borrowed from must be voluntary or at least agree. Now we know Uncle Richard borrowed lifespan. What we need to know is who did he borrow it for?" Aunt Sarah seemed stunned, as if trying to remember that day. Uncle Richard seemed to have borrowed money from Uncle David. He said Trevor was in trouble and needed money urgently. Uncle David said just take it and use it. Brothers don't need to calculate debts, but Uncle Richard insisted on writing an IOU. I laughed coldly. Uncle Richard is so stingy, how could he actively pay money? It would be good if he didn't rob others instead. Family members' lives to him are just stepping stones. Where's the kindness to repay debts? Aunt Sarah suddenly remembered something. That's right. Uncle Richard insisted on writing an IOU, forcing Uncle David to sign it. I calculated silently in my heart. If Uncle Richard wanted to borrow lifespan for himself, he just needed to trick Uncle David into saying he agreed to lend it. But if it was written on paper, then it was definitely to borrow for Trevor. Aunt Sarah was shaking with anger. I must go find them and get to the bottom of this. I immediately stopped her. Borrowing lifespan isn't something ordinary people can do. Behind Uncle Richard there must be a master helping him. Aunt Sarah, you stay home to take care of Uncle David. Leave this matter to me. I had Aunt Sarah escort me back to the paper money shop. Concentrating my spirit, I projected my soul to fly to the hospital. Trevor was lying in the ICU, his body full of tubes maintaining life. He had quickly become emaciated, like a withered piece of grass. I took out a pre-cut paper figure. I didn't even need to bite his finger for blood, because his whole body was already covered in blood. The paper figure fell to the ground, transforming into a soul identical to Trevor. I was waiting for the ghost officers to appear when one swooped in like a whirlwind. The ghost officer looked at Trevor's soul, suspiciously flipped through the book of life and death, muttering, "This person's lifespan isn't finished yet. Why has his soul separated from his body?" I immediately took out a pre-cut paper, dropped blood on it, turning it into an iron chain, wrapping it tightly around the ghost officer. "Lord Ghost Officer, you've committed a crime. You've altered a mortal's lifespan, disrupting the order of yin and yang. Today I must go see the judge to discuss this clearly." The ghost officer struggled, continuously crying innocence. "Who altered lifespans? I didn't do it. I was somewhat suspicious." Ghost officers can struggle to escape, can beg for mercy, but absolutely cannot lie. Because whether lifespans have been changed or not, the judge only needs to check once to know. It seems there are other hidden circumstances in this matter. I pretended not to know, continuing to question him. "My cousin has heavy murderous energy, his human vitality is completely gone. Yet he's still alive. This is clearly abnormal." The ghost officer eagerly defended himself, accidentally saying, "He's still alive because someone in his family set up a formation, channeling merit into him, so he can barely keep his life." I became even more suspicious. The Stone family has done so many evil things, how could they have merit? So, whose lifespan was Uncle David's borrowed by? The ghost officer realized he had misspoken and wouldn't argue with me anymore. Taking advantage of my inattention, it broke free from the chains and disappeared like a wind. I had no time to worry about the ghost officer anymore. Only one thought remained in my mind. Uncle David's lifespan wasn't taken to extend Trevor's life, so who was it borrowed by? I wandered back to the ghost money shop, but saw Aunt Sarah pacing back and forth in front of the door. I secretly sighed in relief. Perhaps the negative energy on my body had dissipated, so she could no longer see the shop. I threw a red umbrella outside. As soon as Aunt Sarah saw the red color, her intuition flashed, and she immediately opened the umbrella to shield the entrance. I walked under the umbrella and smiled at her. Aunt Sarah, you're so clever. I didn't know how to explain everything that had happened to me, or why I could only stand under this red umbrella. While I was struggling with my thoughts, Aunt Sarah suddenly spoke urgently. Vivian, Lisa has taken the 2 children away. I bit my finger and touched a drop of blood to Aunt Sarah's eyelid. Aunt Sarah, follow me. She smoothly entered the shop with me. Aunt Sarah, don't panic. I left paper figures on Daniel and Vanessa, I'll find them. I concentrated my spirit, sending my soul into the paper figure on Daniel's body. When I opened my eyes, everything around me was pitch black. Daniel's paper figure was stuffed in his school bag. I used all my strength trying to escape from the heavy bag. Before my eyes was a quiet road, surrounded only by rows of connected factories. If I remember correctly, this is the road leading to the food factory. 2 school bags were thrown by the roadside, with clear tire tracks on them. I continued concentrating my spirit, entering the paper figure on Vanessa's body. This time when I opened my eyes, there was light before me. I was lying in the front chest pocket of Vanessa's school uniform. Listening carefully, I could hear Daniel sobbing beside me. Stop crying, it's annoying. Daniel was frightened by the scolding and only dared to sob quietly. I secretly poked my head out of Vanessa's shirt pocket. Before me were Uncle Richard, Aunt Margaret, and Lisa. All 3 were kneeling on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. Facing them was an old man sitting in meditation with closed eyes. He wore white robes, had long hair, and a kind face like a blessed and longevous old man. Lisa bowed. Master, I've brought my young cousins. Please tell me when we can perform the ritual. My brother in the hospital can't wait much longer. The old man stopped chanting. Last time you used Uncle David's lifespan to change your family's fortune. This time you want me to use the 2 young cousins' lifespans to extend your brother's life. Do you know both of these things go against the heavenly way, and moreover the backlash is extremely terrible? The old man chuckled. So who will bear the consequences this time? Aunt Margaret quickly tried to please him. Last time Lisa bore it, so this time let the girl bear it again. Before the old man could speak, Lisa couldn't hold back anymore. She sat up abruptly, turning to Aunt Margaret. Mom, I already bore it last time. Why must it still be me this time? Do you really consider me your daughter in your heart? Aunt Margaret's eyes flickered as she stammered. But nothing happened last time. You have thick fortune. This time probably nothing will happen either. Lisa's voice choked with tears. Nothing happened last time, but what if something happens this time? What would the consequences be? Aunt Margaret remained silent, not even daring to look directly at her. Lisa turned to Uncle Richard. Dad, then you bear it this time. Hearing Lisa call his name, Uncle Richard reflexively stepped back. Dad is the pillar of the family, Dad cannot have anything happen to him. Moreover, saving your brother is also for your future. Lisa was so angry she no longer bothered to be patient. If it weren't for me desperately finding a master and learning magic, our whole family would have been finished long ago. If you 2 don't want to bear the backlash, then I'll take the 2 children back. Brother is so seriously injured, that's also his fate. If he dies, I'll support you 2 later. Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret both said nothing. Lisa stood up and walked toward the 2 children. I immediately shrank back deep into the pocket. She was about to tie up the children when the old man spoke. You brought them here and now want to take them back. Do you think you can escape so easily? Lisa's hand froze, she gritted her teeth in anger. The old man continued, these 2 children are young, with very long lifespans. Last time I only took half of Uncle David's lifespan. This time I'll take 2/3 of the 2 children's lifespans. As for the backlash, your parents will each bear half. Aunt Margaret was about to protest, but the old man snorted coldly, and she immediately dared not say more. Lisa gave up. I immediately poked my head out to look. The old man took a piece of black wood from his chest and threw it on the ground. This is yin wood. You 3 burn it up, make a pile of fire, and place the 2 children on it to roast. Hearing this, I could no longer remain still. My soul returned to my body, I was covered in cold sweat. Aunt Sarah, Daniel, and Vanessa are at my parents' food factory. Quickly call the police, then go home and get people to bring Uncle David to the factory immediately. Hurry up. When we arrived at the food factory, the police and Aunt Sarah were both already there. Seeing me sitting in the car without getting out, Aunt Sarah immediately reacted, came to the car to meet me. She held an umbrella and led me to the police. The police officer's expression was very serious. Are you certain the 2 children are inside? I'm certain. Aunt Sarah immediately stepped up to help. That's right, the children's phones have location tracking, and the location shows they're here. The police officer reassured us. We'll quickly mobilize more forces and arrange a plan. They're currently holding hostages, negotiation experts will arrive soon. The family can rest assured. After the police left, I asked quietly, Aunt Sarah, has Uncle David been placed where I said? Aunt Sarah nodded. He's already in the back courtyard. I excused myself saying I wasn't feeling well to get in the car with Aunt Sarah to rest. But actually I had her drive around to the back of the factory. The back courtyard used to be where waste materials were stored. The door was usually locked, and no one could enter. But earlier I had used paper to make a master key, and given it to Aunt Sarah. I told her to stay in the courtyard to watch over Uncle David while I snuck in through the back door. As expected, Lisa had lit the yin wood and was using it to start a fire. As soon as they saw me appear, they all jumped in shock. Vivian, how are you here? Lisa saw me like seeing a ghost, immediately running toward the old man. Master, it's her, she's a ghost. Besides our family, no one else can see her. Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret also ran toward the old man in fear. Aunt Margaret kept cursing. It's all because of this little bitch. Your curses on our whole family brought us to this point. I paid no attention, only gently comforting the two children. Daniel, Vanessa, don't cry. I've come to save you both. I quickly stepped forward to untie the children. A murderous aura rushed at me, and I didn't dodge, letting it penetrate my body. The old man grunted. Truly evil magic. A paper person is quite strange. This is the first time I've seen a living paper person. I untied the children and pushed them toward the door. Run quickly. Your parents are waiting outside. But just as they reached the door, a murderous aura suddenly slammed the door shut. What I've set my sights on, how can you easily take away? I immediately threw out 2 paper guardian figures for the children, while observing the formation the old man had set up in the room. So this was the fortune, changing formation for Uncle Richard's family. The old man's voice was hoarse, clearly not matching his appearance. You practice evil magic, but you should also know about karma and reincarnation. You steal others' lifespans to extend your own life. This goes against the heavenly way, and will surely be punished by heaven. The old man not only wasn't afraid but laughed out loud. Stealing lifespans and being punished by heaven, but have I violated karma? I did steal lifespans, but the ones bearing the consequences are Uncle Richard and his daughter. What does it have to do with me? His eyes gleamed. Ha! I spent so much effort extending my own life, but unexpectedly, if I had a paper body, I could replace it with a new one, transform however I wanted. Wouldn't that be even more perfect? His hand gathered a black, sticky energy, looking like an abyss swallowing everything. Come here, let me study how exactly you were created. I pretended to be controlled by him, slowly walking forward while secretly reaching into my pocket to take out the most important paper figure. You ask how I was made. Of course, from bamboo strips and yellow paper. As soon as I finished speaking, I threw the paper figure out forcefully. The paper figure burst with bright purple gold light, shooting straight toward the old man. The body of the righteous God, can you summon the ancestor of the Mashan sect? Who exactly are you? The golden light continuously devoured the black energy, until the light burst forth, illuminating the entire room. Who am I? I burst into laughter. I'm nothing more than a paper person made of bamboo strips. Ah! The old man's terrible scream rang out, his body gradually withering, becoming just a pile of black bones in a few seconds. Then, countless points of light flew out of his body, like fireflies spreading in all directions. Those must be the years of lifespan he had stolen from others. Finally his bones couldn't hold up anymore, beginning to crack and turning into a pile of black ash. The ash burst into strange blue, green flames, quickly spreading to Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret's clothes. They frantically tried to put out the flames with their hands, rolling on the ground, but couldn't extinguish the blue, green fire. In just a moment their whole bodies were consumed by the blue, green flames. Save us, Vivian. Save Uncle! Vivian, Uncle is your blood relative. Save Uncle! They rolled and screamed, crawling toward me. I panicked and dodged, quickly running outside. Outside, Uncle David had awakened after his lifespan was returned. He was sitting up, gently comforting Aunt Sarah who was still crying. Seeing 2 burning figures rushing toward me, Uncle David struggled to sit up, shielding me behind his back. Fire had completely engulfed those 2 figures. They writhed and wailed in agony, their mouths continuously crying for help. Uncle David couldn't bear it, turned his head away, weakly saying to me, Vivian, no matter what, he is your uncle. Maybe you should save them. The police are outside, they can't escape the law anyway. My voice also grew weak. Uncle David, this is karmic fire, I cannot save them anymore. Aunt Sarah only now noticed something abnormal about my voice. She looked down carefully, horrified to discover that my feet were also burning. The bamboo joints on my body crackled and popped in the flames. She was frightened and stepped back 2 paces, but then remembering it was me, she gathered all her courage, took off her jacket, and tried desperately to put out the fire on my body. Vivian, don't be afraid, I will save you. Aunt Sarah was always so gentle. Even knowing I was a terrifying paper person, she still used all her strength to save me. I weakly spoke. Aunt Sarah, don't waste your energy. This fire started because Uncle Richard touched my foot. It cannot be extinguished. She tremblingly stopped, tears silently falling. Vivian, thank you for saving Uncle David. Uncle David heard this. Knowing that the fire on my body was caused by Uncle Richard, his eyes full of guilt, no longer mentioning saving them. He looked at me, his voice choking. Vivian, why has your body become like this? The fire had reached my knees, and I collapsed to the ground. Uncle David, Aunt Sarah, as you can see, I'm just a paper person. Actually, when my parents had their car accident, I died with them too. Such a serious accident, how could a small child like me survive? Grandfather couldn't bear to let me die, so he saved me. Grandfather was a disciple of the Mahshan sect and a master of making paper figures. He made an exquisitely crafted paper person, sealed my soul inside it, then used Mahshan magic to make me look like a normal person. That's why grandfather didn't go to anyone's house for elder care. He had to stay by my side, not letting others discover this secret. Uncle David bowed his head, his eyes full of regret. Aunt Sarah's eyes were red. I looked at them, my voice clearer. Uncle David, it's not that I don't value blood relations, but Uncle Richard created too much negative karma. This is heaven's punishment. Uncle David, do you know? My parents' death wasn't an accident but caused by humans. That year, Dad only said not to let Trevor drink too much soda, fearing tooth decay. But Trevor got so angry he put an empty soda can under Dad's brake pedal. Because the brakes got stuck, the accident happened. Later Uncle Richard secretly had someone remove the can from the car, covering up the whole incident. My parents' death was ultimately treated as an ordinary traffic accident. Uncle David choked up. So Trevor's car accident was your doing? I immediately refuted. Of course not. I'm a paper person, living by magic, accumulating virtue is already difficult enough. How could I create karma? Everything in this world has cause and effect. Trevor killed my parents, so he also died in a car accident. As for Uncle Richard, he got involved in gambling and lost all his money. This food factory was also gambled away by him and lost. Grandfather knew about this and forced him to sell the house to pay debts, but he refused, and had a big fight with grandfather. Because he was so angry, grandfather had a heart attack, but Uncle Richard was clearly at home yet didn't call for emergency help. He just stood there watching grandfather die. After grandfather died, he received some money, paid off all debts, then continued gambling. I looked at Uncle David with a cold smile. Uncle David, when grandfather had his heart attack that year, writhing with no one to save him, doesn't it seem similar to Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret today? Rolling on the ground, crying in agony, but no one could save them. 3 feet above our heads there are spirits. Those who do evil will face retribution sooner or later. Uncle David was silently furious, stomping his foot, tears silently falling. Aunt Sarah wanted to help me but didn't know how to approach. She cried, her eyes full of heartache. But Vivian, you did nothing wrong. You're still just a child, why did you end up like this? I struggled to lift my hand to wipe her tears, but the fire had already reached my arms and neck. Using my last bit of strength, I smiled at Aunt Sarah. Aunt Sarah, I am a paper person created by magic, neither human nor ghost. My existence already goes against the heavenly way, so no matter how I disappear, this is the fate I must bear. After saying this, the blue-green flames swallowed my eyes. A wind rose, the ashes swirling at Aunt Sarah's feet, as if feeling the last warmth she brought. Vivian, I can't enter this place. I've been here several times but you never threw out an umbrella. Uncle David has recovered very well, no different from before, just his whole person seems drained of energy, no longer as spirited as before. Uncle Richard and Aunt Margaret were burned to death. The police came but couldn't extinguish the flames. They burned alive for a whole hour before dying. Lisa was arrested for kidnapping, but she witnessed her parents being burned alive in front of her and went crazy from the shock. She's now been sent to a mental institution. Trevor also died that day. We didn't go claim the body, so the hospital probably treated it as an unclaimed corpse and cremated it with others. Vivian, Uncle David and I now only have you as family. If you can return, please come visit us. Aunt Sarah placed some pastries at the door, murmuring instructions for a while with reluctance before finally leaving. I sat in the shop controlling Lucy's paper body to make a new body for myself. Lucy stood beside me complaining, "Vivian, this part is missing bamboo strips. It doesn't look like you at all." I pouted. The previous body was made by grandfather. Of course it was more exquisite. Lucy hummed, "So annoying. You just want a thinner waist to look prettier." I giggled. Less bamboo strips means less paper. Won't that finish faster so we can continue business to earn merit? My merit was all given to the ancestor. I will make a new body and continue living for a long time. But I will never see Uncle David and his family again. I hope they will never see me again either. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. I truly appreciate your comments, feedback, and thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. See you again in the next story.